Hello, welcome back to Monster Train. One moment, I gotta bring it up. This is a discussion video, by the way. This isn't a regular episode. I'm sure you can tell by the title. Today we're talking about the Imps, boys. I gotta figure out where I'm putting this. I guess right here. No, that doesn't seem right. Hang on. There's too many Imps. I guess this is okay. Like here is fine, I suppose. We'll go right there. Alright. Let's get to it, shall we? I want to do a video. Today's video is all of the Imps. This isn't one that was requested, but it was actually what was suggested in chat when I did the Rector video. I was like, hey, what do you want to see? And someone was like, yo, I'll do a video about the Imps. And I went, ooh, that's a great idea. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to talk about all of the Imp cards. We're going to talk about the 6 main Imps, just making sure that this last card is consumer. We're going to talk about the 6 main Imps here. Those, of course, being Molting Imp, Fledgling Imp, Welder, Helper, Pyre, Chomper, Impish Scholar, and Transcend Imp. I originally thought when I was playing this game for the first time, Imps were very bad. My first like 100, 200 hours, people would say, haha, go Imps, and I went, no, it's terrible. However, I am now here to teach you the error of my ways. Imps are very good. Let's discuss, shall we? So we're going to talk about each of them individually, and then we're going to talk about how they work together. This might be a bit of a longer video than the normal discussions, but there's, we're covering 6 cards here. Covering a whole package, essentially. I'll probably touch on the other Imp cards as well while we're here. Let's begin, though. So we're going to start with Molting Imp. Solid card. Deal 5 damage to enemy units is good. This kills every single backline enemy in the game except for the multi-strike generators on floor 7 and the diligent purifiers on floor 7 and floor 8. Which is fine. Like, it's solid. Very solid. I think that this Molting Imp shines the greatest against Sap Seraph. I've had so many runs where on floor 1 I pick Molting Imp and just go, yeah, this will probably be good. And then I never play him to any meaningful effect. And then on floor 8, I am about to lose because of Shade Wings, about to wipe my front line, and then a Molting Imp just shows up and cleans them out. Crazy. Like, really crazy. I think you can potentially also use Molting Imp with Endless as like a consistent backline clear. In theory, it shouldn't be any worse than doing Holdover Vent as long as you draw into it in time. But I feel like Holdover Vent is better and easier. There's probably a better Endless target. But yeah, even in a non-Imp run, I would pick up Molting Imp just as a one-of. And he's solid. Probably don't go much further than that. Fledgling Imp is next. Fledgling Imp is the Rage Imp summoned to apply Rage 3 to friendly units on the floor. Sure. I think that this is the most mediocre of the Imps. I think he's just... I don't think he's bad, and I don't think he's good, right? If I were to be ranking the Imps on a tier list, he would just be dead middle. Like, extremely, extremely okay. Rage Generation is cool. If you use him with Multi-Strike, that's really good, of course. Animus of Will, Deranged Brute, Brandon Warrior... I spelled Brandon wrong. Don't look at me. There you go. All of these do well with Fledgling Imp, but typically I think he's not worth the space. Important thing to note as well is he does give himself the Rage, so he'll come in as a 7-1, which is not bad. If your plan is to play a lot of Fledgling Imps, you may end up just leaving a Fledgling Imp on the floor to be a body that absorbs Rage. I've done it. I don't think I have anything else to tell you about Fledgling Imp. Not really. I don't think that... unless I'm committing to Imps, I'm probably not picking Fledgling Imp. Outside of like maybe red-green. I would maybe take it then to apply Rage onto an Animus of Will. But for the most part, I think that this Imp is underwhelming. But, not bad. Just like... It's weird to find a slot in your deck for this Imp, I think. There's better options usually. Alright. Up next is Welder Helper. Welder Helper, he's the best. He is... when I talked about this on stream, I posed the question of what do you think is the best card in this game? And I would potentially answer Welder Helper. I think that Welder Helper is definitely the best card in Hellhorned, with like maybe a few exceptions as potential choices. Welder Helper's insane. Apply 20 armor for 1 energy, 1 space is crazy powerful. Think about a comparable card here. Of course, you can read the notepad. Branding, right? Think about branding right here. That's 20 armor for 2 energy, and you have to pay 5 health. Welder Helper is just 20 armor, and the only thing you have to pay is 1 space, which is not hard to pay in a clan that has mostly 2 space units, with the exception of 2 3 spacers. I guess 3 can kind of consume Rift Crowns, but that's not a real unit. But Welder Helper does, if you give him Endless, he does the thing that Hellhorn wants to do, which is turn any unit in your game into a tank. He stacks up somewhere in the range of 60 to 120 armor if you give him Endless, and can kill him every turn. But like, he's so good. He's so good. I cannot stress how good Welder Helper is. The reason that there was a moment where I had a turning point in Imps. I had a turning point where I went, oh wait, Imps are broken, and it was a run where I had 2 Welder Helpers and a Transcend Imp, and one of the Welder Helpers had Endless, and I generated enough armor to kill Seraph. That was the moment where I went, oh, you can just win the game. Like, it's actually just that easy, right? Like, it's actually just crazy how easy it is. You just stack armor on anything. Stack it on Demon Fiend, stack it on Alpha Fiend, stack it on Prince. You'll kill Seraph. It's really strong. It's really, really strong. Indirectly, stacking armor can answer backline by just having you be able to tank backline and outpace their damage output. I've learned this from playing a few Umbra Melting runs where my plan was just survive the backline damage and then kill them through like a Morsel Master with multi-strike hitting them. You can do that with Welder Helper as well, where you just generate so much armor that the backline doesn't matter. Although I think the video that goes up today might... I think I go Imps in the video that goes up today. I don't remember, actually. Regardless. Up next is Scholar. But in the Imp tier list, Welder Helper is the best Imp. He's crazy good. He's so good. If you're not picking Welder Helper, you should pick Welder Helper a lot more. Scholar is... he would be the worst Imp in the game, except for Pyrochomper exists. He's not very good. But sometimes he is really good. He's a really weird Imp because unlike all of the other ones, you kind of have to build around making sure Impish Scholar isn't going to be bad for you. You don't want Impish Scholar pulling back something really garbage, right? Like, you don't want this guy pulling back a Crystalline Seeds or an Urchin Spines, right? You want him pulling back something that's high value. I think that it's very uncommon for me to just pick Impish Scholar straight up because... the situations where I want to pull back a consumed card are very infrequent. The big thing about Impish Scholar is his ability to bring back Imp in a box. There's a lot of craziness that you can see if you are playing a full commit, full send Imp run. Picking up one Impish Scholar, I'm gonna move this down so you can see Imp in a box here. Picking up one Impish Scholar and then being able to put that in the Transcendent summon pool and having Transcendent pull back Imp in a box and letting your Imp generation get out of control is really fun, of course. Outside of that, though, where are your normal uses of Impish Scholar? I think that he's okay if you have Alloy of the Ancients, and I think that he's okay if you have like Wildwood Sap. If you're not fully going in on Imps, you're gonna need something really worth it. But usually I don't think there is something worth it enough to just pick Impish Scholar. However, what I do believe is that it is pretty solid to go Impish Scholar if you're playing Transcendent, and letting Transcendent bring back a consume card every turn can be good. The weird parts of Scholar are how he has anti-synergies with the Magic Shop, right? If you're going to be picking Impish Scholar, you have to make sure that you do not have consume on like a Torch or on a Restore or on a Frozen Lance. And you have to make sure that you don't remove Consume from a card that you actually want to be pulling back off of Impish Scholar, which is weird. And he's also really weird against Diligent Seraph, because all of your cards become Consume cards. Really strange. Something interesting to note that I am not sure how works. This is a fringe interaction. If you happen to know how this works, please feel free to leave a comment and let me know. But I don't know what happens if you try to Impish Scholar back a card that was consumed off of Sacrificial Resurrection. Be interesting if you could use that to pull back a unit, right? Like Impish Scholar, and then you return a drag to your hand. That'd be really weird. But yeah, underwhelming overall on average, but he also has the potential to do some pretty crazy shit. Up next is Pyrochomper. he's the worst imp. I don't think I would ever pick Pyre Chomper to put him in my deck. That being said, an excellent imp when you pull him off of Impsicle or pull him out of an imp in a box. Like truly extremely good. Because usually when you're using him as when he's generated, you're not losing the draw for the energy, it's just 3 free energy. He combos, I guess, pretty well with X cost cards if you're trying to do something like that. And also he's an auto take if you have the Unbroken Horn, which lets you retain your energy. But for the most part, I think he's underwhelming. I think that it really is just, it's never really worth it outside of those fringe cases. In an average run, I would not pick Pyre Chomper. Also, he makes chat say Big Chungus a lot. And they go, oh, is that the Big Chungus imp? And I go, yeah, I guess. You got me. I don't like that either, though. And finally, the big boy, Transcendent. Let me scroll down here. Of course, Transcendent. You don't need, like, I'm pretty sure that if you're watching these videos, you don't need me to tell you that Transcendent is out of control. I have, if you want a video to see how great or how crazy Transcendent can get, there's a video on this channel. You can search it on YouTube. It's called Playing So Many Imps I Lag the Game or something like that, where I X5 an imp in a box and pick up a Transcendent and give him Endless, and there's Impish Scholars and it pulls back imp in the boxes and it gets really crazy. It like, I have a floor of imps that's just doing like hundreds of damage and the game lags because it's resolving so many summon effects. That's not what I really think Transcendent is good for, though. Like, it's fun, of course, but that run is a high roll. I don't really like to play towards high rolls because playing towards high rolls is not consistent. You play towards what you can do consistently. What can you do consistently in this game? Oh, man. Like I said earlier, right? 2 Welder Helpers plus a Transcendent wins you the game. And also Transcendent plus Impish Scholar, as we talked about in Impish Scholar. It's just good. Like, it really is just good. I think that I haven't had it be strong with, like, Fledgling Imp as a main source of Imp plan, right? I haven't really used it as, like, a spam rage. I think that spamming defensives is usually better than spamming offensives, but you can do either one. And yeah, it's just good. Like, it's just a good card. Obviously, you don't pick it if you don't have Imps, but if you even have, like, 2 Welder Helpers, Transcendent will win you the game. I think with Molting Imp he's a little underwhelming, and with Pyre Chomper it's whatever. Oh yeah, if you have Endless and you don't have a ton of imps, you may want to Endless with Welder Helper, or Endless on the Welder Helper instead. So it is not per instance of, like per unit, it's per instance of the summon effect. So if you play Welder Helper 5 times, Transcendent will generate you 5 times the effect, regardless of if it was 1 Welder Helper that was played or 5. And also, I'll talk about the 3 other fringe cases for Transcendent. Transcendent will also gain health off of the Awoken and the Thorned Hollow, and Transcendent will extend space off of Architect Penumbra. I don't think that any of these things really matter for Transcendent's power. I'm never gonna go, oh yeah, I really want to grab Transcendent because we have Awoken Hollow in this run. I really want to get that extra summon. I want this Transcendent to have 61 health. It's not very good, but Transcendent as a whole is a really good imp. Like, it's really good. It gets really crazy. Like, it really gets crazy. The only downside is, of course, that he is rare. Real quick, the final thing that I want to mention here is just a general note. It's important to always have a plan for how you're killing your imps. If it's like Fledgling Imp or Molting Imp or Pyre Chomper, you can just like put them in front and they'll die to heavies for sure. Impish Scholar, same thing. If it's Transcendent, you have to be careful if you have Welder Helper. If you have Welder Helper, you do need to keep your torches, right? Because Welder Helper does apply his armor to the front friendly unit. You need to keep your torches so you can ping your own Welder Helper, maybe pick up Imp Important Work, or I'll minimize this now. Imp Oppressive maybe, although I have not had great success with Imp Oppressive. Imp Important Work is the better of the sacrifice cards, for sure. But yeah, really strong. I'll talk about these other imp cards real quick. If you have Transcendent, it's never wrong to take Imp in a box. Like, there's never a situation where Imp in a box is bad with Transcendent. Outside of that situation, though, remember that the imps that come out of this cost energy, so this card is effectively 2 energy for you. to play. Much better with Forever Flame. I would probably always pick this with Forever Flame. However, yeah, like it's just weird. I think that if you're not planning on imps, it's probably not worth it unless you have Forever Flame. The variance is just too high, I think, is the big problem with it. Important work, I think that if you have two things to say about important work, the density of imps you need for important work to be good is probably like 4 imps normally or 1 endless. An endless imp with a holdover important work is just very strong. The cards cancel each other out and just become 2 free energy every turn. If you play important work on an imp who is endless, you will draw that imp, is the other thing. So if I have an endless Welder Helper on the field, and I play important work on him, he will die, he'll be put on top of the deck, and he will be drawn and you get to play him again. Important thing to know. Impalade, I think, is the worst of the imp cards. This card becomes value even if you have 2 imps in the deck, but for a rare, I think it's underwhelming. If you add imps through other means like Imp in a Box, this does scale up dynamically though. So if Imp in a Box generates you 2 imps, Impalade goes up by 30 damage. Great with Impsicle, I suppose, but you know, occasionally this is just like, occasionally Impalade is just your answer to double heavies in a sense, and that is okay. But I never really get the chance to try it out because it is a rare card. And I never see it. And then Impressive is just fine. It's like if you need a way to sacrifice your imps, this is it. Important work is better. The 50 damage is whatever. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it for the imp video. I'm not going to talk about Consumer of Crowns because I think Consumer of Crowns can go into his own video as a whole. This video is already long enough, I think, for the discussion series, but I wanted to cover the imp stuff here, and we did. In conclusion, if you're sleeping on the imp plan, you shouldn't. Because what I want to drive home to you here is this. The amount that you have to commit is very low, right? Committing to imps, you don't have to full send. You don't have to X6 an imp in a box and then pray you high roll into transcend imp. You can pick 2 Welder Helpers at the start of the game, or even better, start with 2 Welder Helpers and then pick up like a Molting Imp, Fledgling Imp, and then you have a really strong base for Transcend Imp. Then the mid game try to pick up Impish Skull or maybe Pyre Chomper if you're really struggling on energy, and pick up an Imp in a box or 2, and then find a Transcend Imp from Daedalus or Fel, and you'll just win the game. Really crazy. Like really, really powerful. Really, really powerful. Because it's non-committal, right? That's the thing that I think is important to know. You don't have to go in on it. You don't have to like, oh, well, I didn't roll Transcend Imp, we threw the run. Right? Welder Helper on his own is a great card that can holo run Aloft, and Fledgling Imp is also passable, and Molting Imp can save your life. And it doesn't really require a whole lot of support to do that either. Like, all of these cards are pretty good in their own right. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you for watching. Thank you for enjoying, I hope. Feel free to leave me a comment. Tell me what you think about imps. Any interesting imp-related things I'm interested to hear. If you comment an imp pun, I will reply nice as well. So please feel free to comment in the form of an imp pun so that I can go nice. And subscribe if you want to see more. More discussion videos will be coming up. I don't really know what else I'm going to do, so please feel free to leave me a comment as well saying what you want to see, because I could use some more ideas. Otherwise, I'm just going to slowly cover all the cards in the game. And yeah, that's the end. I will see you in the next one. Have a good one.